I want to make sure that we get the important stuff you want people to hear that is being suppressed.
Yeah, this is
That's the most important thing.
What's this guy's name?
Colin Coffey, yeah.
Colin Coffey.
Colin Coffey, yeah, who is the base. He had an important job. He was head of security control. He was working on the base on the night of Woodbridge, and Colin was something to do with the security of the base. So I'm sure Colin, when the blotters went missing, I'm sure Colin.
What do you mean by the blotters and stuff?
Well,
like that?
there's reports of the incident that was all went missing near the time or something. There was the blotters with all the information on what was
What do you mean? What's a blotter?
Well, it may be what was happening on that night from the people on duty. The duty, I think they have a right to report of what was going on. That's Colin Coffey there in the middle there. He's a gunslinger man. I was always backing Colin up because I used to be the barkeep in Sidewine Western show. And if I go to this one here, it just shows a group of the people. And I got the names, so you can got Peter, Colin, and that's in the 19.
Now, where is that?
That's at Court Fete in Ipswich. We're doing a Wild West show there on the Court Fete in Ipswich. And that was in 83 in Ipswich Court Fete. And we were all we got pictures there, but Colin's ways in the middle. Then we got Freddie Albans that side, Colin, and there's Peter at the front here, Peter Parish and Colin Coffey. And down below was David, and that one, the bottom picture was David. And we're all doing Western shows.
What's the significance of the band? What's the significance?
Well, Colin was involved with that night, so he was at the base. So he would have been.
Which night?
He was in security control, that type. But Colin also would because I saw him in Ipswich, and Penniston was also living in the Ipswich area. And I think, because I did talk to Colin when he was coming up to show practice at the Henley Fields, or the stables, where Fred had stables with horses, and we used to have set up with a show. And I got talking with Colin there, and I said, did you have anything to do with the UFOs, seeing the UFOs? And he just, I could see him. He didn't answer that. He could see. I didn't go any more. I didn't press him because I knew he had an important job. I knew his job was very important, and he had to look after it. And I appreciated that. So I left that there. But I felt Colin was very. You could see he was very focused, and he also had a very important job to carry out. So. There was something.
He checked the gates and stuff.
Well, Colin was more of the security side. He was a bit more in controlling all these. He was over Penniston and all these other lot. He was I think a big say in the matter. But Colin was either in the main compartment or main control, where they control, where the security control. He was maybe answering, maybe information and talking.
But I mean, those pictures are 3 years after the incident.
Yeah, that was Colin was.
Yeah. So how long was he there for?
Colin there until, I suppose, he went back to States. Now, when did he go back? He sort of retired a little sort after that and moved back to States. Spent the time when Penniston, I think, just appeared off the scene as well. So it was all sort of that time where there were maybe he may have gone by 487 before we had the hurricane. So
is that because of the publicity then started to happen?
I think when the publicity when hit the fan, like you say, that started fun. I think we got out of it, and he got away.
Now you got a picture here of a thing that you say. Is this his UFO? Did he have an incident?
What, I mean, this one?
Yeah.
No, this is Ron.
Okay,
sorry. No, that's at Woodbridge. He saw this thing coming down. No, but Colin Coffey was involved with that time, and I'm sure he knew more what he's letting on.
What do you mean by that? Exactly what significance and contribution do you think that he's...
I feel that there was he was part of the cover-up. He was, he was moved on.
What do you mean, part of the cover-up? Are you suggesting that Colonel Holt is covering up on this?
Colonel Holt is like smearing over, trying to cover over to make it look a little bit more. Everything had taken off and flew away again, and the evidence is gone. Making a little bit more, made it more.
So
sort of
why are you saying that? Have you said that, suggesting that he's misdirected people with different facts?
Well,
he
never seems to find the landing site, and so maybe he doesn't want to find it. He's already found it.
What about Capel Green? What about the original ones and all that?
Well, the Capel Green, you see, that I always say I leave it to Larry, because there's somebody seeing things coming down the land. There was something happening.
Talking about the original witness, the woman, this little girl at the time.
Because you got Boast's daughter come out and saw a craft landing in the landing. Oh, you mean that big craft? She started
at Capel Green, the first one.
Yeah, there was Capel Green. There was with the big craft that landed. Apparently both daughters saw a craft landing at Capel Green. Yeah.
So explain that, because obviously this film, in the context of when we're shooting at the moment, Gary Heseltine is producing a film. It's got some input from Larry Warren, but an awful lot more others, and it's called Capel Green. And like you, the original little girl who saw this thing landed at Capel Green
would have been Boast's daughter. I think Brenda said Boast's daughter come out.
Now, who's Boast?
Well, Boast is the farmer.
The farmer,
and
yeah.
I think he's still there. He's on that corner.
Yeah,
the farm. And he's still there, but they said Holt talking about one day, and he said he left the area, but he's still around. But Boast has kept quiet about it all, because it's right near his doorstep. You know, he was the next house down from the people that saw the lights in where Capel Green, where they saw the lights and the UFO landed and there was lighting up, because say Holt was talking about, a bit concerned about the people in that building, but the lights were shining in this farmhouse. That was I think it was cowman or something worked on the farm there.
Yeah, well, the information I heard, that they didn't want to mention the name, but that name's out now, I think.
Yeah, it is something.
And the lady concerned has tried to talk to members of the public, to other people.
Well, if she was a young girl then,
yeah.
and I think she was hustled back in the house or something. Boast didn't want her to talk about it, because she started to talk about it to the people who were around, and she was.
But she's the first witness of the whole thing.
It may be interesting, because I don't know what was going on else at the time, you know, and I just there's this. I
mean, the concern about these recordings on Basis 3 is to basically highlight the British witnesses and the British research information.
Yeah, well,
all of this seems to be dumped and suppressed.
Yeah, because
and it's an American issue.
The dog walker, I think, was a big lead in the first part, where Brenda said that was on 11 o'clock at night on that night. So the craft already.
And that's that. What's his name? The dog walker, just to remind people.
Well, this is the Mr. Gladstone, I think.
Gil Gladstone, yeah.
Mr. Gladstone. He was walking his dog just at 11 o'clock at night. And he said he saw lights in the trees just where he goes for his walk normally. He said that's not normal. He said I knew where the base was. I knew this was too near in the forest for the base itself. Lights.
And whereabouts is that?
This is just off a track down to the Capel Green end, but it was a track that led up from, you would say that's track 10, which we would always walk down the main track from the Folly House, and you come down, we call that track 10. Well, I think he was coming in down that track, walking up through the trees, because then there was tall pine trees, like in Area 1, that was tall. And he used to wander his dog there, and he used to go there because the dog used to look for rabbits. He used to love chasing rabbits. She or he, I think.
But talk about the.
Yeah, so they saw this. He saw these men covering up this object sticking out of the ground, silver object sticking out, and he said got close as he could without being spotted, and he could see these men with silver suits on, and had another guy walking around with a torch looking for anything else that dropped off this thing. But he said whatever it was that came down for a height. It stuck in the ground. It actually just displaced the ground. So this thing came down and thudded into the ground. And he said they were trying to cover up with a tarpaulin and either putting something around it, maybe putting to be picked up with some. Shortly while he was watching, he said he could hear a helicopter coming. He said that was coming towards him. He said that way, and he said, I don't want to get caught, and they must start asking me what I'm doing down there at the time of night. And he said I had to get out before I get caught. He said I know I shouldn't have been watching what was doing on here, but he said that was something that they were covering and to pick up or something. And the helicopter came over. So whether they picked it up, they were getting ready to airlift it out of the site and fly it over, because later on there was a lady who lived at Folly House, his husband. They were woken by a helicopter, and there was shouting outside. There was American voices and English. And she said we could see there's something suspended from underneath a helicopter, and that was swinging very rapidly underneath the helicopter, and something hit the lights of the runway.
The thing about that light is, years later, it was still broken.
Yeah, well,
why?
I remember
we're talking 25 years later. That light was still broken.
I thought remember Brenda saying there was an electrician went out from Leiston. He was called out to repair a light at the runway, and he went to repair. So whether
he fixed the bulb, but the thing's all still bent.
Maybe the whole thing was left. Maybe it has been bent and just left. Maybe just put a bulb in or something. You know. But this thing struck, or something struck the light, and then they carried it over the base and landed over towards the Area 1, which was the landing spot.
Now, there's people been saying that was merely the recovery of a practice spacecraft rescue thing, and it was a triangular thing, and it just was used. It looked like a cone, cone. So
something that throws out radiation and something that it fits the picture of Georgina's
I think you'll
book.
find it was just a practice dummy thing, and nothing happened, and let's move along. Isn't that what Nick Pope would say?
Well,
or would he say anything as definite to that?
If they paid me well, the military or something paid me well, I would just say yes, it was an ice cream cone that landed.
Yeah.
But I've got radiation on both my legs, and I found the landing site, and a lot happened that night. More than just this little ice cream cone that landed in the forest. There was a space shuttle apparently was landing.
Yeah. You mentioned that in the earlier interview. Do you want to have a look? I think you've got the picture here.
Yeah, there's one. That one's a bit clearer. This is a picture from Brenda's book, well, I drew a picture actually. Brenda was given the photograph from the lady who his husband worked in the ART rescue, and she managed to smuggle out some pictures when she was.
This is the American lady.
American lady, yeah.
And she got out, and then was since. Dispatched back to.
Yeah, well, these are all sort of bits and pieces that were picked up at the time, and this one was recovered. They recovered this from the sea about the same time as the Rendlesham UFO landing, and also there was a lot going on at Cable Green around that area at the time. There was also a taxi man was coming home, coming down the road, the Cable Green Road, which goes past the end of Cable Green. He said he saw Americans running around in the fields, picking up burning debris and finding all stuff been scattered across the fields. There's something broke up or something came down. And so they were picking this bits.
Is that the Russian re-entry satellite? The photograph.
No, I think that was more likely this here, a space shuttle, because this was recovered.
So are you saying that a space shuttle crashed or some kind of re-entry?
There was something going on very serious, because this here was recovered at the sea, and been on the seabed some days.
But you can see the
run. Yeah, because when it was in the on the water's bottom, it had the runs coming down. You can see the distressing of the with the salt water. This nose bit of the nose cone laid on the seabed for, I would say, about a week at least, about a week before they found or located it.
But it's definite that then a shuttle must have exploded.
Well, there was something coming in there. There were attempts, I think, something was going on out in space where there was a re-entry of this craft, but they were trying to land somewhere in emergency, because these space shuttles, when they come into land, they don't get a second go at it. So they're glad to try and land it anywhere. They try and land. I think they were trying to come in at Woodbridge Base.
Which is what the runway's designed for.
Well, they said that in a real emergency they can land if it had to be a real emergency. So they might have to perhaps come in a bit quick and a bit low, maybe perhaps overshoot a little bit as well. But they could land it, and then they could retrieve and safely get people home. But whatever happened there, it must have broke up in space as re-entry.
Well, that's happened before.
Because there was
obviously
because Hosey Bay, the prison was on alert to be evacuated. So
why is that? Because it's in the
line of the flight line coming in. If they had come into the base here at Woodbridge, it would have been in the flight line. Maybe it could have been even. If there's anything went wrong with the craft, had problems, and they knew it.
Well, the bottom line is that the look of that, since that photograph was taken, there's been 2 shuttles failed. So it looks as if A, they had a lot more shuttles, and B, they were having failures with them.
Yeah. It was due to the tiles, I think, weren't keeping on the craft. I think they had big problems with the protective tiling on these planes, and also the detection of loose tiles or missing tiles they couldn't see.
But coming in on that trajectory, that far north, 50,
something seriously,
just on the very top of their normal orbit, but that's in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I wonder whether was there a confrontation. Was there a confrontation in space? Was there these other craft involved with these things that come down at Rendlesham?
Because then you're having a whole pile of smaller triangular craft with associated drones. It seems like some kind of secret space program.
Yeah,
battle.
This is what I feel is something
with man-made technology, and then something then came down and did something to the nuclear weapons.
Yeah, there's a lot of
knocked them all out. Allegedly.
If they got the technology to fly these craft, then they were coming in, destroying the trees without being seen.
Yeah.
And they can go on the base and destroy the trees there, and they can also destroy or upset the weapons as well. They can, if they got the technology.
It's beginning to look like this is evidence of a hostile battle in space.
Yeah,
we lost.
Well, it's something going on. See, who's running space now? Who's running these craft?
We're doing this in the context of the extremely hostile reaction of Nick Pope over Gary Heseltine's film.
Well, you talk about this. And
the vilification of Larry Warren.
Yeah.
And the fact that Larry Warren has been vilified as the most evil and dreadful person on earth. I think the person who's doing that is getting awards on stage. And they won't listen to a word you're saying, and they won't listen to the original witnesses, and you've got a stroke, you've been taking a hit, you've got radiation.
Oh yeah.
And so
I've been targeted a few times, and
and Brenda.
Oh yeah. People have been buggered about with people who died with radiation.
And I have to say that Dot Street, I know she pulled out of the thing after a lot of stress and whatever, but Dot Street, when Peter Paget, I don't want to get you too mixed up.
Yeah, I used to know
Peter Paget, when he gave a so-called disclosure presentation at Warminster, the Warminster 50th, a number of years ago, he specifically made sure that Dot Street was made to sit in prime area, and he made very clear during that thing, to honour and respect Dot, because she was the tail end. The other, I think, Brenda was there as well, but she was on the next. This was the next day on a Sunday, and for some reason he made very clear that he was giving her over. I think this case that he was blowing whistles there.
Yeah, I used to remember going to see. I got up to see Morris Owen at Lakeland Drive. He used to live at 3 Lakeland Drive.
Okay, we've seen that. Yeah.
And I used to go and see Dot then. Dot used to live there, and Brenda and Dot were getting together to bring out a book on. That's before the 1983. That was.
Well, I have to say that talking to ordinary people where I used to work. They'd explain that they'd be around this area. Bedford, is there Bedfont or something?
Yeah.
There's between the border of Suffolk and Norfolk.
Yeah.
Some case like that, and they were explaining that they were simply out having a cycle.
Yeah.
And there were some bases nearby, and in broad daylight, on a summer's day, this huge craft, I think it was a triangular thing, just came straight over, just above the hedges.
Yeah. There's a lot going on, because even daylight at Rendlesham, Vicky was my partner, and Vicky was roller skating up the track not far from Eastgate Road, on the main road of the and all of a sudden, broad daylight, came this triangular. It was like it was a V-shaped craft, a very, very small drone thing came over. She said she saw it coming down the row of trees, following it. It came over and then zoomed across through the other trees, the other side, from going sort of like towards the Woodbridge base. But she said that was a fast V-shaped craft, very low. You could hear it, because I heard the noise of this craft when I was talking to her.
Was it
and that's
stealth?
It is. It's a drone. She said it wasn't much bigger than a car, the length of it, but it's very fast and very. A bit like the Phoenix Light craft that came out, this big thing, but small drone type. And that was, she said that was somehow was following the tree lines and just zoomed across very quick. And she caught it and saw it as she was on talking to me. I had my back to it, but I heard the noise that came over.